Hello friends, welcome back to the studio. In case this is your first time here, my name's Heather. I'm the owner of Charming Chapters, which is a small bookish business located in North Dakota. And this week I'm answering all of your questions, whether it's small business, life on the farm here, about books, about Luna, you name it. I'm gonna answer as many questions as I can for you guys. Last week when I posted the video, I mentioned that you guys could ask me anything you wanted, whether it was here on YouTube or on social media, and you guys blew me away with your questions. So I'm gonna answer as many as I can for you today. And I'm really excited. You guys had some good ones for me. So I think it's gonna be a lot of fun to answer these, and hopefully you guys learn a few things too. Now, don't mind me, I've got my laptop sitting like right next to my phone here so that I can read off the questions. So I'm not ignoring you guys or just staring off into space. I have my questions over here on the computer. So let's just jump right in. So the first one is, what inspired you to start your own business? Well, I've always loved books. Books, I could not live without them. I've read them for as long as I can remember, and I've always been really artistic too. I grew up with my grandma. She was very, very artistic. She actually used to make her own ceramics, like where you pour the, I'm not sure if it's called clay. I don't know the exact terms, but where you put the clay in the different molds and then she would fire them. She had a kiln in her house. And when we were little, we used to get to paint those with her, my brother and I. She would actually give us a cup of water and a little paintbrush, and we would put water on top of the little fired ceramic pieces, because when you get water on them, it turns them darker. So here we were thinking we were painting with her, and it was just something that we did all the time when we would go to visit her. And she was really into sewing too. She did quilting, different embroidery, things like that too. So just growing up, you know, hanging out with her at their farm, I learned a lot. I always loved painting and different things too. And then my other grandma, she did a lot of quilting as well. So I guess I just kind of grew up with doing all that stuff too. There's also my grandpa who did a lot with welding. As weird as that sounds, he was actually really creative with it. So they did a lot of stuff in the oil field, but he would also take different pieces of metal and draw on them, like freehand different designs, and he would take his welder and then cut them out too and make different sculptures with that. So I guess just kind of growing up in an artistic family, I have always loved different artsy, crafty things. Now both my parents, neither one of them are into crafting or art or anything like that, so must have just skipped a generation on both sides. But yeah, I've just loved crafting for as long as I could. So once I discovered the world of book sleeves, I was able to tie in my crafty side with my book loving side, and it just kind of started from there. I ordered a book sleeve for myself, and then I'm like, well, I could probably make this. So I made a couple, and then I was showing friends and family, and then of course it just kind of grew from there, you know, because everybody was wanting book sleeves for their books or Bibles or tablets, Kindles, what have you. So just kind of took off from there. I actually didn't start the business as Charming Chapters. We've been in business for 6 years now, but for the first few years, we were actually called Book Nook Sleeves. And as the business started to grow, I realized I didn't want to just make book sleeves. So I had been wanting to change the name for quite a while. But not only that, when all of these little book nooks came out, you know, the little figurines, they're like little boxes that you slip between books on your bookshelf, those became really popular. So it was hard for people to find me as Book Nook Sleeves because all of these book nooks were taking over. And so I just knew it was time to change the business name, and I wanted something kind of fun, obviously bookish, and so Charming Chapters came to be. All right, so next question. How did you start your business, and what kind of setbacks and successes have you had? Well, I kind of just explained how I started the business. It's been a 6-year journey so far. We just celebrated 6 years in January here, so it's been a lot of fun to grow. As for setbacks, definitely the changing tides over the year. You can tell when things are changing, like in the economy, especially the last few years here too. You know, people just don't have as much money, so obviously aren't spending money on all the extra things. And obviously my accessories are extras, you know, they're not an essential. So you can definitely tell that. Also with the changing, like different themes and different things that are popular. Once I rebranded to Charming Chapters, I knew I wanted to just kind of have a set theme for my shop. I had grown to the point where I just wanted to just be consistent with my themes, my colors. So I was originally with Book Nook Sleeves, I was kind of a teal color was my branding, but it was really hard to find teal accessories like packing supplies and stuff. So I knew I wanted to switch colors, and pink I kind of had gravitated towards pink. A lot of the accessories I had started using in my photos were pink, just because that was kind of the accent color for a lot of books that had come out at that time. So I just kind of naturally gravitated toward pink. You're gonna think it's weird, but pink is not my favorite color. You would think it is with how pink everything is in the studio here, but actually teal is my favorite color. Anyways, we switched over to pink, and I knew I wanted to do fun, like cute things, so naturally I gravitated towards the bright fun colors. So when I kind of started switching over, there weren't a whole lot of shops that were doing the pinks and the bright colors, but over the last year or so here, that's kind of been the trend. A lot of pink, a lot of bright colors, so my products don't stand out quite as much, so I'm having to find ways to make them different than what everybody else is doing, because there are a lot of shops that are based on trends. You know, they just make whatever's trending. As much as I love doing trends, I still want to stand out on my own. You know, I don't want to just have products that are just going to be a phase. I want to be me, myself, you know, things that I love, and the bright colors are me. So one of the setbacks is I'm having to do a lot more work being myself, but standing out as myself too. So I'd say that's one of the setbacks. And social media has really changed since I started. TikTok is a really big thing, you know, making videos and reels and all of that. Whereas when I started with Instagram. I was one of the few that started Bookstagram when it was just starting to take off. So going from photos, which I really loved, I actually had a photography business for a few years. I don't mention that a whole lot, but for me, I love photos and flat lays and things like that. So transitioning with social media has been a little bit harder for me because everything is video now. So I'm not as good at making videos, and with the way things are, you have to be able to catch people's attention, you know, just within seconds. So that's been a lot for me to learn. I don't do a whole lot of reels and videos other than the YouTube here, but these are long form content, so I really like those. But yeah, that's kind of been a setback too, changing with social media. But yeah, as for successes, I really haven't had anything crazy happen. Like I haven't gone viral or anything like that. But I have a lot of small successes that really mean a lot to me. Over the years, we've become within the top 2% of Etsy sellers within the world. So that's pretty exciting. We're over 8,000 sales on Etsy now. I've also had the pleasure of working with a lot of authors over the years, making special edition book sleeves or different things for boxes that they do. I've also worked with a few different Bookish boxes, so that's been a lot of fun. And I've also had some rep team members that over the years have gone on to write their own books. So that's pretty exciting too, just to see people that I've connected with, kind of go on and start successful things of their own, whether it's a business or writing a book and different things like that too. So nothing like crazy for successes, but just small successes that really mean a lot to me, things like that. Our next question is, how long does it take to make a book sleeve? Honestly, it takes longer than you think it does. There's a lot that goes into a book sleeve. You have to, first when you buy the fabric, you have to wash it. That helps get all of the extra ink out that might be in there that might bleed onto other things that you're working on. So you have to wash and then dry the fabric. And then I like to iron it afterwards too. It just helps get out the wrinkles, so it's a little bit easier for cutting. And then that also makes, when I'm cutting them, a little bit more accurate too. Because if you don't iron it, you cut it and then you iron afterwards, obviously everything was wrinkled up and then it's going to flatten out. So then you'll have technically wasted fabric because you'll have cut them to the wrong size. So there's cutting of that fabric, there's the exterior fabric, the inside lining fabric, and then also the inside material. We use a foam interface, the little cushion that protects your books, we use the foam, so you have to cut that. And then after all that, you have to clip everything together and then sew it. And then afterwards, we steam everything too. So all in all, probably from start to finish, when you break down all the little minutes like that, I'd say probably about an hour for each book sleeve. Now, obviously, like an extra large book sleeve is larger than a small book sleeve, so it takes a little bit more time for sewing those, but I'd say around about an hour for each book sleeve or so. Next, how do you decide what theme you pick? Honestly, I go with my gut. It usually turns out pretty good. There are a few times where I didn't trust my gut and things weren't as popular as I had hoped they were going to be. So I have learned to trust my gut over the years. Also, I try and do what you guys are asking for too, to an extent. Obviously I try and stick within what I know with the bright colors and different things like that fit within my niche. I don't do a whole lot of dark romance, with like the blacks and the grays. That's just not me. When I first started out, I kind of tried to dabble in different things. I tried to make something for everybody, and I quickly learned that isn't how it works. I have to be true to myself and what I like doing, and the people that enjoy that same thing will gravitate towards you. You're never going to make everybody happy, which I learned, as much as you may try, it's just your products aren't always for everybody. So with the theme, I usually stick to my gut, do things that I know people are asking for, like within the colors, and then a little bit with the trends too. I try not to go full-blown trends just because I know it's just a phase. It's not going to stick around forever. So I just honestly, I just trust my gut, and things that I want to make and bring to life, then that's what I make. How did you learn to sew? Actually, in high school, I took a home economic class, and we had to sew a bunch of different things. I remember making a pillow, a tote bag, different things like that. There was a gal in that class. We were able to pick patterns and then make different things that we want. But there was a gal that made like a beanbag chair in there. So that was kind of the basics, for learning to sew, with just some simple products like that. Any tips for people wanting to sew or start their own small shop? For sewing, easiest, find somebody that already does sewing. There's a lot of tips and tricks that you can pick up on, if you are around somebody that can sew and teach you. If not, honestly, just look up some videos on YouTube. There are so many videos out there, especially if you have a certain sewing machine that you use. Like I use a Husqvarna sewing machine. So if you go to Husqvarna, they will have different videos for your specific sewing machine. So then, there's certain things you should know about your sewing machine, like how to adjust different settings, how to clean it, the different maintenance that's involved. So I would definitely, if you don't have somebody around that is familiar with the sewing machine, definitely look for videos, because that's going to be the easiest way to learn. And there's a lot of really cool videos and teachers out there too to learn from. Now, as for somebody who's wanting to start their own small business, honestly, do a lot of research beforehand. It's more than just, I want to make something and sell it. There's a lot of legal things you should be familiar with. With taxes, you need to register within your state, to get a proper business license. Also register for sales tax. You need to know how sales tax works within your state. Each state is different. Here in North Dakota, I have a quarterly sales tax, but not all businesses are like that. Sometimes they are every few months, sometimes they're at the end of the year, sometimes they're fiscal years. So definitely, learn about what it takes to run a business, not only in your state, but also the country that you're in. And one of the biggest things I recommend is learning about copyright and trademark. That is a huge thing to protect yourself legally. Now with me, I did trademark our business name, Charming Chapters, and I'm really glad I did. It was about a 2-year process. For that, I recommend, contacting somebody who is familiar with all of that and having a professional help you and walk you through all that. There's a lot to learn, and there's a difference between copyright and trademark too. But with learning with that, you will quickly realize there are a lot of things that you cannot make, even though you may want to. Now, I'm in the bookish niche, obviously, but I cannot just go make a sticker or a bookmark or a book sleeve based on a book. Legally, I have to get proper licensing from that author so that I can create products based on their work. Now, they fall under copyright, but a lot of their stuff may be trademarked too, depending on how big they are, how well known they are. And as they grow, they may have licensing deals with certain companies too, like Target or Barnes and Noble or different things like that too. So with trademark copyright, you legally cannot make things based on books, movies, television shows, songs, artists. You just can't legally do that without the proper licensing. Disney's a really big one. I know everybody does it. You see Disney stuff everywhere all the time, but Disney is really, really fierce with protecting their copyrights and trademarks. They will go after you, and if you aren't properly licensed and you haven't protected your business, you may lose everything, to be quite honest. So biggest thing, learn about copyright and trademark. Now for me, obviously I'm not really big, but why did I trademark my name? Well, honestly, I put so much heart and soul into my business, and I don't just sell locally. Like, I don't have just a brick and mortar store. Obviously, I sell on the internet, which mostly is within the United States. So I've protected my business for there are different categories that you can register your trademark in. We're in paper goods, apparel, different things like that. And so I did that to protect myself, because I don't want another business coming along trying to use the same name as me, and getting my customers confused, and everything that I've built up, over the years and put so much time and energy into, and somebody coming along with a really similar name or trying to use Charming Chapters as well. It has happened more often than you would believe. So, trademarking, as you grow, if it's something you definitely want to get into, long-term wise, definitely look into trademark and copyright. Running a business, it's more than just, I want to sell my products. That's great. I love that you want to do that, but look into all of the other things that come along with just making and selling your products too. Our next question is, what is your dream sewing project? Honestly, I don't know that I have one. I think I would like to learn basic quilting. To be honest, I don't have the patience to put together hundreds of little tiny squares or triangles or things like that. That's just not for me. So I don't know that I really have a dream sewing project. If I'm being honest, I love the designing side of the business more than the actual sewing part. I know we do a lot of book sleeves, and that's what we started with, but designing is really where my heart is at. So honestly, sewing is not my love. I love creating things, but not sitting and sewing, because for me, it is sitting at my sewing machine, staring at a wall. So it's not that exciting. I try and watch YouTube videos and read audiobooks and things like that, but it's gets to be a long day physically, sitting there. It takes a lot on my back, my legs, things like that too. I have to make sure I'm getting up, moving around, things like that. So yeah, in all honesty, I don't have a dream sewing project, just because it's not my love within the business. All right, our next question. Do you create your items all by hand, or do you use a design program as well? So I use a mixture. Some elements I do draw on my own and create on my own. Others I do use a design program. It just depends what I'm making. I'm not the best at drawing like faces and things like that. So sometimes I will use the design program, to incorporate those kind of things. So it's kind of a mixture between the two, I guess. How do you get your designs sized to your book sleeves, especially for those that you didn't draw yourself? So for book sleeves, I'd say about 95% of the designs that we have in the shop, I made myself. So with those, I can size them to the size book sleeve that I would like to make. So I usually design them in our medium-sized book sleeve, just because it's easiest to expand upon the designs from there. And our sizes of book sleeves are very similar too, so it doesn't take much to make the next size. There's a lot of dimensions and stuff that go into that, and maybe one day I'll make a video on that too. But yeah, for book sleeves, I make 95% of the designs. As for everything else in the shop, like the stickers, the bookmarks, all of that, I make 100% of those designs. I don't download somebody else's design and stick it onto my stuff. So for the 5% of book sleeves that I don't design, it's usually stuff from like Hobby Lobby or Michael's or things like that, where it's a fabric that was already printed and I bring in. And for those, I just cut them to the size that I want, for each size book sleeve that I need to sew. Do you see yourself making anything else like the clothes? Yeah, I would love to do other styles of clothing. With the last launch, the Romance Reader collection here, that I just did the t-shirts. I was wanting to do long sleeves, but I ran out of time. But I would love to do some long sleeves, kind of like what I have on. So this is like a long sleeve t-shirt. It's not the really thick and heavy sweaters, but I would like to bring these in, especially for like the winter time. I've also thought about doing tote bags, maybe even some little pouches, things like that. I just haven't had a whole lot of time the last few months to do a little research into products that I would like to bring in. And it'll kind of depend on the collection too, depending what we're doing and the designs that I come up with, what designs would fit on different products too. All right, so the next one is, can you share good manufacturers in the US for fabric printing? Honestly, there are so many. If you just go onto Google and type in like US fabric manufacturer, there are a lot of different businesses. There are a lot of different like small businesses businesses that will print them for you too. It just kind of depends what you're looking for. Like if you're looking for a specific material, if you want, cotton, that's pretty easy to find. But if you want something more specific, like fleece or more of a silk material, it's just going to depend on what the different manufacturers can print. So there are some within the US. A lot of small businesses will also order, I know you guys don't want to hear it, but a lot of them will order it from China just because that is where a lot of the printers are based. Even for the small businesses, they will do like a run of fabric. You can pre-order this fabric from this date to this date, and then I need to order it and get it printed, which a lot of the printing is done in China. So yeah, I mean, if you just type in like on Google, a US manufacturer, if you want to keep it within the US here, it should give you a list of them. As for specific manufacturers for different products in the shop, I usually don't talk about them a whole lot. And that is because I don't want a manufacturer, if a manufacturer does something like post something on their social media or I can think of like a sticker company, was it last year? They sent out an email based on political views to all of their, email newsletter subscribers. And then there was a big, event with that. I don't want somebody else's views or comments or anything like that to reflect on my business. I'm pretty easygoing. I don't have anything against anybody with certain political views or certain religious views, things like that. I'm pretty easygoing. If those are your beliefs, those are your beliefs. So I just don't mention manufacturers just because I don't want something to come back on, that a manufacturer did to come back and reflect on my small business. So another thing with manufacturers, I personally believe that as a small business owner, it is good for you to sample different small businesses because what works for me won't always work for you. And that's just part of running a small business. If you think about like the successful businesses, like the big ones, they don't share the manufacturers, but they have ordered in samples from, 10, 15 different manufacturers. And I think that's part of the small business journey. You have to put in the time and energy to do the research. After 6 years here, I've made a lot of mistakes. I've ordered things that didn't work. I spent a lot of money on things that didn't work, especially like with my Cameo recently. I think I'm on my 3rd sticker paper now. I watched a lot of YouTube videos and, some people, oh, I love this sticker paper. Oh, I love this sticker paper. They didn't work for my printer. They didn't work with the Cameo, different things like that. So you won't hear me talk about manufacturers very often. If I do mention them in a video, it's because I absolutely love it. Or, it's something specific with that project that we're working on in the video. So, but yeah, I personally believe manufacturer wise, it's something as a small business owner that you need to research, you need to test. And, some people are going to say, oh, well, I don't have the time or the money, to be testing all this stuff. In all honesty, this probably isn't the time for you to be running a small business then, because businesses do take a lot of time and they do take a lot of money. With business, a lot of the money that you see come in, if you say, oh, I got a bunch of orders, well, a lot of that money has to go back into products. It has to go to taxes. It has to go to shipping supplies, different things like that. So to sum that all up, manufacturers, if you're looking for something in particular, go on Google, type in what you're looking for, and just do some research. You're going to have to sample things, to be honest, different things like that. So what type of foams do you recommend for sleeves? Again, this is going to come back to, you're going to have to test out what works for you. I like to use a foam interfacing for my sleeves. When I started out, I used fleece, and I liked fleece for a while. And then we switched over to a cotton batting. It was about 1 inch thick, and that worked for quite a while. And then I decided I wanted to switch to foam. So I know there are a lot of different book sleeve shops where they use the different things. Some use fleece, some still use the cotton batting, some use foam. So it's just going to be whatever you prefer, whatever kind of style you are trying to make and what your customers like too. Some customers may not like one versus the other. So I just recommend trying a few things out and see what people like. You mentioned in quite a few of your videos that you live on a farm. How large is the farm? So there's actually 3 different farmsteads that are part of our farm. We live on one. It's kind of like a dual farm. So we are on one end of the farm. Then in the middle, there's a few Quonsets and barns. And then in the wintertime, the cattle are right by the house here. And then there's another house on the other side. That's where Dan's boss's son lives. So we've got one house, he's got one house. And then about a 1/4 mile down the road is where his boss's mom lives. So they've got a shop over there where they do different things. And then a couple miles away, there is another farmstead where Dan's boss lives. So it's actually 3 different farmsteads within, a few miles of each other. And then as for the farming acre-wise, don't quote me on this, I'm not sure. I can't even ask my husband because he's out feeding cows right now. I want to say it's like 7,000 acres that they farm. I could be wrong. I'll have to ask him. But they farm canola, soybeans, corn. Those are kind of the main ones that they do. So it keeps them pretty busy. Then they also have, I'm not even sure how many acres, a few hundred acres at least, that they do for hay so that there's, hay for the cows in the winter. So it's a decent area. Then also my husband's uncle lives not too far away from us, so they farm some of his land. And then Dan's grandma lives probably about 20 minutes south of us, and then there's some farmland down there too. So I could not tell you for sure how many acres there are, but it's a decent amount, enough to keep them busy all year round, that's for sure. How far are you to the nearest town? So we are about 4 miles away from the nearest town. It's a little teeny tiny town. They've got the post office that's open for 2 hours a day, and then they have a little bar and grill, and they have a really good food there. They have really good burgers, and then on Thursday nights they do steak night. So they have really good steaks there too. And I think it's the last Thursday of the month that they do chicken fried steak instead of just a traditional steak. So was it last week's video or the week before? I mentioned how many people live there. I think it was like 68 people or something when they did the census back in 2020. So yes, it's a little town. They do have one gas pump that sometimes has gas, but other than that, there really isn't much in the town. The nearest town, like for getting groceries and things like that, is about a 30-minute drive for us. So it's far enough away where we're out in the country, but still close enough where if we need something, it's not too far away. We do try and go to town at least once a week. I usually try and plan the trip around like a chiropractor appointment or something like that. Or if I need to go get fabric, then I'll just plan to go get groceries and stuff while I'm in town too. So we're out of town, but not so far away where we can't go get things if we really need them. So next question is, what is your favorite book? I used to say that it was A Court of Mist and Fury, but after re-listening to the series for a second time last year, I'd have to say it's A Court of Silver Flames. I don't know why, it just really clicked with me again this time when I read it, more so than the previous times that I've read the books. I usually listen to them or read them physically at least once a year, but something after this last time, I really liked A Court of Silver Flames. I feel like I understand Nesta a little bit more, so that's probably my favorite book, which kind of goes along with the next question, which is, who is your auto-buy author? Sarah J. Maas. I will always buy anything that she releases. If it comes out, I will absolutely buy it. My second favorite would probably be Rebecca Yarros. I really like the Fourth Wing series, but I've really enjoyed her other books too, like her romance books. I listened to The Last Letter, was it last fall? Sometime last year. I really like that one. So next up, I want to start on her military romance series. I think that should be really good. I just really like her style of writing and have really connected with the book. So I'm excited to try more of her stuff. Another author I really like is Elise Kova. I've done a lot of her fantasy books, not all of them. I would like to do a read of all her series, but she's one of my favorite authors too. I like that she has kind of a variety of books, which has been really fun. Since we're going with the bookish questions, the next one is, what's your favorite book quote that inspires your work? I would have to say it is, of course, from the Court of Thorns and Roses series. It is, "Don't let the hard days win." I absolutely love that quote. If I ever got a tattoo, I don't have any because I'm afraid of needles, but if I ever did, I feel like that would be the quote that I would get tattooed. When I'm having a bad day, stress, anything like that, I just stop, pause, and tell myself, don't let the hard days win. Tomorrow's gonna be a new chapter, so just, start over, start fresh. So definitely, hands down, my favorite quote would be, "Don't let the hard days win." Another bookish question we have is, what is your perfect reading environment? I love curling up with a cozy blanket and having the lights dimmed, candles, different things like that. Just a really cozy environment. Since we moved into the new house, I haven't really found a reading spot yet. I had the living room, but my husband has his gaming desk right behind the couch, so I know that's not the perfect reading environment. And I could go lay in bed, but I don't know, it doesn't feel like quite my vibe yet. We are working on remodeling the downstairs. Actually, next weekend, we're going to be working on putting up some sheetrock down there. And we would like to put in a kind of hangout space down there. So hopefully that'll be my new reading spot, if you will. I just love cozy spaces, so maybe I can do some cool lighting or, you know, things like that, just where you can dim the lights and it's got this really cool glow. It'd be really fun. I do like putting on the ambiance videos in the background. If you haven't checked them out on YouTube, just type in like ACOTAR or Fourth Wing ambiance videos, and I like putting those on in the background. Just kind of helps to get in the vibe with whatever I'm reading too, you know, with the calming music, and then you've got the really cool scene too. So yeah, just really cozy vibes, and I'm reading is my thing. Our next question is, what is your next goal for your business? Short-term goal is getting through my quarterly paperwork. I tend to procrastinate with paperwork. It is my absolutely least favorite thing about running a small business. I tend to procrastinate, and then I end up with 3 months of paperwork to do like right before my quarterly taxes are due. So that is what I am currently working on this week, which is actually why we're doing the Q&A video, because I figured you guys didn't want to watch me do paperwork all week long. But after I get that done and my regular taxes, I'd like to get set up on a wholesale website called Fair. There's a lot of small businesses that are on there too. It's been a goal of mine for the last couple years, but with last year moving and, you know, getting all set up at the farm out here and the new studio set up, I didn't get to it last year. So that is one of my big goals for this year. And I've also been visiting with my husband. I absolutely love designing. And, you know, if I had my choice of like sewing every day or designing things, I would hands down choose designing. So one of my goals for this year is actually to open up a second shop on Etsy, and it's going to be a digital only shop where I sell different designs, where maybe a crafter wants to download them, or even another small business, you know, like they can use this design to make a sticker, or there might be Kindle case inserts you can download. I've also thought about putting in there like different things for other bookish small business owners to use, like thank you cards, you know, like the inserts that you put in your orders, different things like that. So that's another goal of mine this year. I would love to have a digital shop, just because I do enjoy designing so much. Honestly, like if I sit down in the evenings, I'll put a movie on in the background and sit there and design. Even though I'm still doing work, I don't feel like I'm doing work, just because I like creating things like that. So yeah, that's another big goal this year too. Next question is, what is a theme or design that you haven't done yet that you want to? Ooh, I've got a few that I would like to get to this year if I have the time. I'd really like to do a fairy tale collection. So not Disney, but like think of like your classic fairy tales, like still the Cinderella, you know, Beauty and the Beast, but more so play off of like the classic fairy tales, because obviously I don't want to infringe on copyright and all that. So I'd love to do a fairy tale collection kind of like that. I'd love to do an Enchanted Woods collection. Last year we did Enchanted Garden, so that was like fairies and mushrooms, a lot of floral stuff, but I'd love to do one that's more woodsy. So think like you're standing in a forest, you know, like those deep, rich brown colors, green colors. I think that would be really fun to do. I would also like to expand on our late night reader collection. It was a little bit smaller one when I did it a few years ago, so I'd like to bring that in a little bit more. Like I said earlier, I want to bring in more cats and dog designs, so that's on the list. And I'd like to do a botanical kind of collection, like one for book lovers that like plants. I think that'd be really fun. We don't have a lot of green in the shop, so that would be really fun to do those, like, you know, greens and different things like that. And I had an idea last year too, I just didn't get to it because it was right about the time we were moving. I'd love to do a cherry blossom collection, like for springtime, you know, with pinks and browns and whites. I think that would be really cool too. So those ones are kind of on my radar for this year. And also I'd like to expand on our book signing collection a little bit. Right now we have the library card book sleeves where you can take those and have the authors sign them. And then we just did the Kindle case inserts too, so you could take those as well. But I think it'd be kind of fun to come up with some designs maybe for a tote bag. You know, a lot of people take tote bags with them to book signings, you know, to carry all their books and stuff in, but maybe do something where the authors could sign that, or a t-shirt or something. I don't know. That's kind of been on my radar too, but I'll have to see what designs work and kind of go from there with that one too. What is your favorite part of owning a small business? I love connecting with everybody. It has been really fun because I am a major introvert, so it's hard for me to go out and meet new people and visit with people. So being, you know, mostly online, I still can connect with all of you guys. but still be in my comfy introvert space here too. But yeah, I've absolutely loved getting to know different people over the years and watching them grow and start their own small business or becoming authors. And it's just so fun to connect with people and see them grow and all of their dreams too. So I'd have to say that's probably my favorite part, besides the obvious of getting to create things too, just because I love books and crafting. So yeah, definitely meeting people and getting to connect has been my favorite. What do you feel is the hardest part of running a small business? Paperwork, especially if you're like me and aren't good with numbers and computer stuff like that. Yeah, definitely paperwork. I'd also have to say like the legal stuff, that takes a lot to learn too. You have to do your research and make sure you're doing everything the correct way too. So other than that, I wouldn't say there's anything hard about running a small business. I guess like during the holiday season when orders get lost and things like that, that can be kind of stressful. But for me, I just put myself in like that person's shoes. If I ordered something for a gift and it got lost or damaged or something, how would I want to be treated? So I try and do my best for you guys, if something gets lost or whatever, walk you through filing a report with Etsy, if something's been stolen or lost or what have you. So I will always do my best for you guys. But yeah, I'd say that can get a little tricky too. What's the best piece of business advice you've ever received? Be yourself. Honestly, just be yourself and don't try and, make what everybody else is making, because those phases are just phases. Trends are trends, they're gonna go away. But build something for yourself that you love doing every day, that you enjoy creating, and just be yourself. Don't try and be anybody else, because you are unique, just like your art is unique. So all you can do is just be yourself, and you'll find your people that want to connect with you and enjoy what you do. And it looks like our last question is, I see you listen to a lot of audiobooks. Who is your favorite narrator? Hands down, Anthony Palmini. I absolutely love him. I fell in love with his voice when I was listening to the graphic audio versions of the ACOTAR books, and I just love the sound of his voice and how he can change it. And, he's just such a lively narrator too, that anytime his voice is in a book, I get so excited. And at first it was kind of hard because he plays Rhysand in the ACOTAR books. And at first it was hard for me to disconnect that, he's Rhysand. That's all I knew him as for quite a while. But after hearing him in some other books too, I love how he can make each character unique too. So definitely Anthony Palmini. But it looks like that's going to be it for this week's video. I hope you guys enjoyed all the Q&A questions. It was really fun to answer those for you guys. I'll have to try and do these a little bit more often. If there's any other kind of videos you guys want to see, let me know too in the comments down below. I know there are some behind the scenes videos you guys want to see, like making book sleeves and stuff like that. So once I get caught up on paperwork and all that, maybe we can try and film one of those, mix it up so it's not the same stuff every week, and try and do some more behind the scenes videos like that. I know a couple people have asked about my Cameo. I am still working on learning that. I've been fighting with it a little bit, so still some learning curve there. Once I get that figured out, maybe we can do, that kind of video too, more behind the scenes, like how-to videos. So, but if there's anything in particular you want to see, definitely let me know. I will try and film that for you guys. You've been asking about a studio tour as well. Maybe one of these days we can get that filmed for you too. There isn't a whole lot for the studio, but maybe if it's like a shorter week, kind of like this week where I'm doing paperwork, I can film something like that for you guys too. So, but yeah, that's gonna be it for this week's video. Like I said, I hope you enjoyed everything, and if you have any other questions that I didn't answer, leave them down below and I'll try and get those answered for you guys. We'll catch you guys again next week. We're gonna be catching up on orders. The fabric for pre-order book sleeves should start showing up next week, as well as stationery for our mini Valentine's Day pre-order boxes. Those should be showing up here too. The day that this video goes live is going to be the last day you can pre-order those. The pre-order items are the book sleeves, the mini Valentine's Day boxes, as well as the apparel. So the pre-orders will end today, later today. So next week we'll work on starting on all of those, getting all the pre-order stuff sent out and on its way to you guys. So I hope you guys join me again next week. But that's it for today. Bye for now.